hearing of the Senate Budget Committee will come to order. This is our first in our actual room and the second in a series of hearings looking at the effect of climate change on the federal budget. Senator Grassley cannot be here because the Attorney General is in the Judiciary Committee, and I will be spending some time there as well with the Attorney General, and Senator Kaine will take the gavel from me when that takes place. And I want to thank Senator Johnson for being here to step in for Ranking Member Grassley. After our first hearing's high-level budget impact overview, today we begin looking at the specific ways climate change will burden, and indeed is already burdening, our economy and our federal budget. We'll start with a look at our coasts, important to Rhode Island. The U.S. has nearly 13,000 miles of coastline. 40% of our population lives along that coast. More than $1 trillion worth of residential and commercial real estate is coastal, as is much of our infrastructure: ports, coastal roads, water treatment facilities. Climate change threatens to upend life as it's now lived in coastal communities and put immense burdens on government. Rhode Island may be the smallest physical state in the nation, but we have nearly 400 miles of coastline. In Warren, the smallest town and the smallest of our 5 counties, some homes have seen property values drop by 1/3 because of flood risk. Sea level rise is projected to permanently flood coastal portions of Warren over the next decade. In 2017, Zillow's real estate database identified over 4,800 homes in Rhode Island that would be underwater with a projected 6 feet of sea level rise, which is projected for us. That's nearly $3 billion in Rhode Island home values. Our coastal communities turn into a Rhode Island archipelago. The situation is not unique to Warren or Rhode Island. For most American households, their greatest wealth is their home. As homes and businesses in coastal communities face more frequent sunny day flooding and wetter and more violent ocean storms, insurance will become more expensive and harder to find. Mortgages depend on insurance, so lending will suffer. Coastal communities will become harder places to live and work, and real estate values and local tax bases will decline. Moody's is already looking at local municipal bonds in this light. In emergencies, coastal communities will turn to the federal government for financial assistance, and federal flood insurance costs will rise. The consequences extend beyond real estate. Much of our infrastructure, roads and bridges and military bases and ports, sits along coasts. When critical infrastructure is lost to regular inundation or to storm damage, local economies can suffer, and again, the federal government has to foot the bill. Unfortunately, the cost of these climate hazards is projected to grow. First Street Foundation has a peer-reviewed flood risk tool that shows significantly increasing risks to residential properties over the next 30 years. Rhode Island's own flood projections show similar risks. A study published just 2 weeks ago estimates flood risk in real estate markets, showing them overvalued now by $237 billion. Spoiler alert, the worst property overvaluations are along our coasts. The study warns that coastal real estate values may plummet and cascade into systemic risks for the mortgage market. I'll interrupt my remarks here for one moment to point out that this phrase, systemic risks, you'll hear a lot of in these hearings. It was defined in the last one. It means when a risk is so serious in one sector of the economy that it cascades across the rest of the economy, as we saw in the 2008 mortgage meltdown, which hurt a lot more people than those with bad mortgages. Freddie Mac has made similar warnings, so let me close by quoting their former chief economist here today on the damage that climate change is likely to inflict as coastal property values get hit. He said, "The economic losses and social disruption are likely to be greater in total than those experienced in the housing crisis and Great Recession." A sobering warning for those of us who lived through that. The only good news here is that by acting now, we can minimize the damage and costs to households, businesses, and our economy. I'll turn to Senator Johnson for his opening remarks, and then I'll introduce the witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.